genres RTS players tend to play, and MOBAs are behind RPGs, strategy games, FPSs, and sandbox games. If you need to bring in a different audience, you're better off catering towards Halo, Skyrim, and Kerbal Space Program players. Opinion Grant for a moment and talk about stuff. Given the niche I fill on YouTube and Twitch, I interact with a larger variety of casual and newcomers to the RTS genre than almost anybody else on Earth. My focus on campaign-based content makes me a natural springboard for people looking to get into the game. From this unique position, I've heard a lot of opinions and preconceptions about RTS and its players from more or less outside sources. And I think many of these are fairly problematic. StarCraft players in particular love to talk about how freaking hard the game is. How a ladder match is like playing chess and piano at the same time. How it's the most competitive 1 versus 1 game. How you physically can't click on the button to queue a Zerg unless your IQ is over 800. Basically, it's a lot of self-flattery, but it works. People see these views when they're looking into a game to play, and it's not a good thing. It makes people hesitant to try out the game. They're not sure they want to spend the time it takes to learn when the community makes it seem like you need a PhD to build a barracks. I think this is part of the reason that the casual to competitive conversion rate is so low. People are intimidated. My experience with both the StarCraft and Warcraft communities is that once you're inside, they're kind, supporting, and fairly non-toxic. But from an outside perspective, we look like a bunch of self-aggrandizing elitists. So no wonder developers are trying to market towards that angle. I think it would be healthy to admit that while professional play is absolutely cutthroat, intense action all the way through, it's not that way for 99% of players. If most people knew most ladder games were more like 2 drunk toddlers fencing with pool noodles, the intimidation factor would be significantly lower. So with all that out of the way, let's get to the core of this. What did old RTS have that was so successful that new RTSs are not doing? It's worth stating that this is not a blanket truth. Many RTS have released in the past that have crashed and burned in ways that make recent releases look successful. Instead, we're going to look at the common themes from the 3 biggest success stories. These being the Age of Empires and Mythology series, Command & Conquer, and the Blizzard RTSs. There are 3 pillars that these franchises had that allowed them to rise above and beyond and dominate the market for almost a decade. They are the engine, spectacle, and development tools. To introduce the first pillar, I want to talk about the 2020 release Iron Harvest. This game is awesome. Post-World War I dieselpunk mechs is an incredibly cool and unique setting. The units are stylized and varied from tiny walkers with machine guns to enormous monsters with siege cannons. The visuals are pretty solid, the campaign voice acting is fun, and it's consistently supported with DLC content. It's really astonishing how uninterested I am at playing any more of it. The game fundamentally fails in its most basic aspects, pathfinding and responsiveness. When a group of units is told to go to one place, they'll split up and head a variety of different directions, making controlling even mid-sized armies a chore. Units are clunky, particularly large units take ages before they're able to execute commands, often creating frustrating situations where your most prized forces are sitting around like dunces while being killed. It relies heavily on a cover system for holding areas with infantry, but the outsides of most buildings can't actually be used for cover, with garrisoning being the only option. The enemy will select a unit of yours to kill, and if pulled back, the AI will charge their most expensive units through your entire army to reach it. I want to like Iron Harvest, I really do, but I just can't. The game fundamentally feels bad to play. Many times when you lose, it's not because the enemy out-tacticked or overpowered you, it's because you're fighting a 2v1 against the opponent and the game's controls. It's worth stating that some games in the past feel like that. StarCraft 1 doesn't feel good to play these days. But it was an upgrade from previous titles like Age of Empires, and then Age of Empires 2 was an upgrade from StarCraft. Red Alert was an upgrade from both, and that repeats over and over, each release being slightly better than the rest until StarCraft 2, where no other modern RTS has matched the pathing or the controls. RTS is a genre where you're going to have to spend significantly more time on the fundamentals. Gorgeous aesthetics mean nothing if the player is focusing all of their attention on trying to get the unit to move properly. Incredible sound design for attacks is worthless if units can't find their way to the battlefield. In games like shooters, the technical investment is far lower. Engines come with pre-provided tools and developers have a firm understanding of the genre by now. But RTS needs a little bit more air under the hood. For all you executives and project managers out there, it might seem difficult to justify spending all the extra time and money on getting these fundamentals correct. But I promise you that by the end of this video, you will understand that this is not a barrier to entry for the genre, but instead an investment into saving more time, effort, and money down the line. One thing I find incredibly fascinating about the big three is they managed to span all of the main settings of gaming. Age of Empires was historical, Command & Conquer was modern fantasy, Warcraft was high fantasy, and StarCraft was sci-fi. Despite the settings being so wildly different, each of these games do a great job with the second pillar, spectacle. Spectacle doesn't need much explanation. Cool things are cool, and using cool things is fun. Age of Empires allowed players to recreate history in a way that was completely novel at the time. Age mythology brought literal deities into the mix, dropping meteors and thunderstorms on your opponent before moving in with an army of minotaurs and chimera. Command & Conquer started fairly average, but it dialed up to 11 with the Red Alert series. Weather control, Tesla coil troopers, zeppelins, mind-controlling enemies to run them into a grinder to harvest them for resources? It's crazy! Warcraft hit all the fantasy notes. Pillaging your foes with orcs, ambushing as elves, powerful heroes that shape the battles around them, a huge diverse selection of third-party creeps that can be both fought for rewards and hired as mercenaries. And finally, StarCraft's far-future Protoss facing against the hillbilly Terrans with janky explosives, and of course the Zerg rushes that are so iconic that they become a basic part of gaming jargon. Spectacle is what you put on the box art, on the Steam page. It's what draws people in, and then starts to get them thinking. When things are crazy and wild, the player gets excited to find new interactions and combos. Ways to rush towards their favorite unit, ways to make it work even if it's a little bit underpowered. As the design focus has shifted towards multiplayer first, a lot of spectacle has been cut. Decimating armies with an invulnerable Soviet tank line with the Iron Curtain just isn't fair in multiplayer. You can't have Yuri mind control enemies and grind them up for cash, it's too cost efficient. When the design is for multiplayer first, you inevitably cut the things that should be selling your product. A good example of getting this balance right is StarCraft 2.
So we had all these ideas while developing StarCraft 2 that we thought were pretty cool. We had units like the Diamondback, which is this tank that can move and shoot at the same time. Well, it turned out it stepped a lot on the Marauder. It stepped even a little bit on the Siege tank in terms of its role. These units were too similar, and it wasn't actually that easy to control. It was actually very difficult to manage what this thing was shooting at while you're moving it. This guy wasn't for esports. We had a Spectre. It's a new type of ghost. This guy's gonna be cool. Oh, okay, well now we got two ghosts. You're gonna pick one, you're not gonna use the other one. And we didn't really want to cut the ghost. It seemed kind of core to what StarCraft was all about. So not for esports, the poor Spectre. But these are all cool. These are all units that in any other game I've ever worked on, I absolutely would have put in. But since those other games weren't designed to be an esport, they made no sense for StarCraft. But we wanted them in the game. We felt like we've done the art. They're fun units to play with. Why should the consumer not have the opportunity to play with these? And so we tried to find places we could put these.
Though I would argue that they didn't go far enough. Originally, the Thor was going to be a unit so massive that it had to be built by SCVs on the field. Battlecruisers were going to have custom weapon attachments like plasma torpedoes that had to be individually upgraded. The mothership could stop time, crack planets, and create insta-kill black holes. The fact that we never got to play with these is honestly disappointing. I'm not saying that competitive multiplayer should be filled to the brim with broken game-ending superweapons, but I feel like each faction should be designed with absurdity in mind. Make it ridiculous for the single-player experience, and then trim it down to what's fair for multiplayer. Boring, uninspired units and abilities are all too common in recent RTS. Cool stuff sells. At this point, you have a game with a strong fundamental base. You've designed bombastic, over-the-top units to energize and inspire the player base, but you don't get to make a game just yet. Now is the time to put effort into making a great editor. Not just a good editor, a great editor. This is the final pillar of successful RTS. The terrain, mission scripting, triggers, cutscenes, and even the AI should all be created inside of the modules of this editor. It is the Swiss Army knife that creates every piece of the game that the player interacts with. We all know the gaming scene has changed in the last 20 years. You can no longer get away with launching a product, a year later popping out an expansion, and calling it a day. Games as a service is the new normal. The new goal is the constant progressive creation and distribution of content in a game so that the players will continue to stick around. A powerful editor allows developers to create that content at a rapid pace. Take Age of Empires 2 for instance. The game initially launched with 5 campaigns, and as time went on, due to having a well-designed editor, campaigns have continued to be made and sold. As of writing this, the game has a staggering 33 available campaigns with almost 250 missions. This is an incredible amount of content to be pushing out, a constant way to reliably draw players back into the ecosystem, getting them hyped for the next content release. A powerful editor also gives the flexibility to capitalize on things that have accidentally become successful. StarCraft 2's co-op commander system was initially a tiny side project when it debuted in 2015. It was considered less important than Legacy of the Void's campaign, the mission packs, and of course the star of the show according to Blizzard, Archon Mode. Well, it turned out Archon Mode sucked and was a complete failure, but co-op was incredibly successful, and Blizzard was able to rapidly expand on it, turning it from a selection of 6 heroes to the current 18, as well as adding in a mutator and prestige system for massive levels of replayability off of a very small development team. If the editor they were working with was not as robust, flexible, and easy to use, that opportunity would have left them by the wayside. But now, I have to admit, I've been a bit misleading so far. I said that these 3 pillars provided the support that old school RTSs had that led them to greatness, and that modern releases failed because they didn't have them. But that's not exactly it. These pillars serve as the catalyst for truth. What is the most powerful force in all of gaming? The critical core of the genre that has been lost, and must return for a successful game. Of course, I'm talking about player-generated content. ModDB is a website for modding games, with a focus on older titles. It's not as big as places like the Steam Workshop or Nexus Mods, but it's been around for a while. Slightly more recent games like Minecraft have 2 million mod downloads there, while some of the bigger titles from the old days like Half-Life and GTA San Andreas have almost 9 million mod downloads. That is a lot, but it's also unsurprising. GTA and Half-Life are not just big brands, they're cultural juggernauts in gaming. What is surprising is that both of these are dwarfed by Medieval 2 Total War's 11 million downloads and Command & Conquer General's 13 million. But why? These are both good games, but neither are iconic pieces of gaming history. RTS is specifically well suited towards user-made content. The top-down perspective is significantly less restrictive on creative freedom than the first or third-person cameras. An RTS with a good editor serves as a blank canvas for an inspired creator to build what they want. And while the average creation might be pretty mundane, there have been multiple instances where entire genres have been spawned from these editors, like tower defense and MOBAs. The reason that the focus on custom content was dropped was largely due to emulation. Developers saw that StarCraft 2 launched with a pretty terrible custom game section and determined it wasn't an important part of their own RTS. But this wasn't an intentional act by Blizzard, it was the arcade not being ready in time. I would argue that the 2 years it took for a good system to play user-generated content with people was StarCraft's greatest flaw, and that copycats are not following success but have instead been repeating a mistake. In the early 2000s, RTS had a dominant position on the player-generated content scene. In 2010, with the launch of StarCraft 2, that dried up. It's not like that creativity and passion to build has disappeared. It just went somewhere else. Because 1 year later, in 2011, Minecraft launched. And if you ask anybody aged 12 to 22, they can firmly tell you that while Minecraft was fun on its own, the best part was the mods. There was an absurd selection of unique game modes that captivated not just audiences, but also viewers, launching countless careers of Minecraft YouTubers who explored, highlighted, and played through these. The players were given a powerful tool to create, and proceeded to do not only that, but also organically market those creations to both each other as well as the wider world, with minimal developer input. This has proven to work not only in Minecraft, but in other games as well. Skyrim is famous for its insane levels of modability, and it just so happens to be the best-selling RPG ever if you don't include Pokemon. The best-selling Halo game is Halo 3, which just so happened to be the one that includes the Forge, which was by far the best way to create and share custom games in a shooter at the time. Kerbal Space Program spent the majority of its life as a bare-bones spaceship simulator brought to life by the easy-to-use CCAN mod manager. And don't even get me started about Half-Life mods, where people created niche modes like Counter-Strike and whatever the heck Gary's mod is. And despite all of these high-profile hits, and Minecraft being the best-selling game of all time, none of them are the most successful game to follow this formula. Roblox is. I'm going to put aside the questionable ethics of the Roblox Corporation right now. People Make Games already did a great video on that topic. Instead, just focus on the numbers. Roblox is only a platform for users to create games, share them, and play each other's creations. Roblox has 200 million monthly active users. At the time I'm writing this, Roblox has the same number of players as the top 3 Steam games combined. This formula of making a solid basis for players to create custom content works. It was proven with Battle.net in StarCraft 1. It was reaffirmed with the custom games section of Warcraft 3. It was driven to ridiculous proportions with Minecraft. And then Roblox came and drove the point home. RTS is a great platform for making this content. This content is immensely popular. The RTS player base skews towards older gamers, and right now, there is a large number of now older gamers who grew up with Minecraft. The math makes sense. Throughout the entire history of RTS, the common theme between the dominant titles has been creator agency. There's a fundamental limit to what a development team can do for a game. They can only make so much content, and after release, they're stuck in maintenance mode, running around putting out fires and squashing bugs instead of developing new content. When the community is empowered, the creation process can continue. When things are created and promoted, they draw in more players. And when more players are drawn in, some of them will become creators. This is the feedback loop that is key for creating a successful title. When you log into an RTS that's destined to fail, you log into a campaign and a 1v1 ladder. But for the kings of the genre, it's not just these things. It's a MOBA, a unit spawner, a tower defense, a hero arena, a Sims game. It's a cat and mouse, Mario Party, and Risk. It's even this weird Toho anime thing that I absolutely know nothing about, but if I did, Marisa would be best girl, don't at me. It's an auto battler, a card game, a tug of war. It's Mafia, Bejeweled, and a typing game. It's a freaking MMO shooter. It's a way to be competitive and a way to play with your friends. None of these things were made by the developer, but all of them were made possible because of the developer. The reason that the next RTS will fail is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the S in RTS stands for. The first developer who understands that the S is not strategy, but instead stands for sandbox, will be the new king of the playground. Thanks for watching. If you want to see for yourself some of the amazing work of the StarCraft 2 modding community, check out my daily uploads channel, Giant Grant Games Archive. I'm currently playing through Legacy of the Tal'Darim, a fun mod where you play through Legacy of the Void as a custom Tal'Darim faction, with both co-op units and a host of new awesome ones. I'm also starting the AI project, whose goal is to turn the brain-dead StarCraft 1 AI into an intelligent monster. And on Twitch for the next couple weekends, I'll be playing through the 7-player Ways of Liberty mod with random viewers. It's going to be the most chaotic, best, worst thing I have ever played. If you're interested, I hope you can check it out. And either way, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here, and I hope the rest of your day is wonderful. Peace.
Esteemed God, your allies are in battle.
Let our enemy know our fury.
Your allies are in battle. Our allies are under assault. We embrace the glory of battle. We have met the enemy in battle. The enemy has attacked our allies. The enemy has attacked our allies. Your allies are in battle.
Let our enemy know our fury.
Gotcha. We're moving out.
Let our enemy know our fury.
Our allies are under assault. We have used up a mineral field.
Raiders roll.
Mineral field depleted. Our allies are under assault. Highlight for hire. Highlight for hire. The enemy has attacked our allies.
You can count on us.
We embrace the glory of battle.
Looks like we found a base.
Your allies are in battle. Highlight for hire. Highlight for hire.
You require my skills.
The enemy has attacked our allies. We have used up a mineral field. We embrace the glory of battle. Highlight for hire. Highlight for hire. Mineral field depleted. Mineral field depleted.
Raiders We're gonna take that expansion.
Our allies are under assault. The glory of battle.
I am the voice of the eclipse.
Your allies are in battle.
Ran into an enemy base.
We embrace the glory of battle. The enemy has attacked our allies. Your allies are We have used up a mineral field.
Their base is over here.
Mineral field depleted.
It shall be.
Our allies are under assault. Your allies are in battle. We highlight for hire. Highlight for hire. Vespine Geyser exhausted.
Gotcha. We're moving out.
Our allies are under assault. The enemy has attacked our allies.
You can count on us.
We embrace the glory of battle. geyser.
Intriguing.
Time to get back to business.
We have used up a mineral field.
I serve now.
Mineral field depleted. Justice, I like for iron.
All right. I'm taking you can count on us.
We embrace the glory of battle.
Raiders roll.
Antara Tassadam. We have used up a mineral field. My meditation is over. Na Adan Atum. Oren Shisa. We are the blades of iron. Command me. Kassar de Templari. Ula Sadari. By your will. On. We have used up a mineral field. My meditation is over. Kassar de Templari. We stand as one. Honor guides me.
Gotcha. We're moving on.
Resting geyser exhausted. The enemy has attacked our allies.